Hey folks, Pat here from DNS. This Madison area fishing report is current as of December 9th. I just wanted to take a sec to thank everybody who made it out last night for Noah Humfeld's presentation on walleye and pike through the ice here on the Madison chain. We had a great turnout, gave away a few door prizes. Noah did a great job. He's a very informative speaker and also entertaining, so I guess there's not much more you could ask for in a presentation. So I hope everyone that showed up enjoyed the show, and I was able to record that. I was watching on my phone. It looks like everything went through okay, and I'll be posting that next week sometime. So yeah, thanks very much to Noah for a great presentation. Speaking of Noah, of course he has his website madisonangling.com, but he also has a YouTube channel here. He's been putting out great content on here for years, but recently he started a series called Shop Talk, where he just kind of talks about random stuff. But I've been watching those. I think they're pretty entertaining and a good follow. So check that out if you like. I guess before we get started on the report, a little bit of shop news. We do have most of our ice fishing stuff in. Still a few things on back order, but pretty much ready for ice season. All we need now is some ice. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But speaking of ice, I have been getting quite a few calls from folks about ATV floats. I currently don't have any for sale. I am looking for some. The company that Gene used to go through has gone out of business. Also, Nebulous, who makes these, you can see here in this little pic, these kind of airbag style ones. Nebulous has also gone out of business. So right now there isn't anybody that I know of making ATV floats. If anybody out there is interested in making ATV floats, I would be interested in purchasing them and selling them here at the shop. Or I'd be happy to just point folks towards you. If you want to make them out of your garage and sell them direct to them, that's fine too. But if the Dane County Sheriff's Office is going to make an ordinance that requires something, there should be a place that people can, get the floats to follow that ordinance. But currently, as far as I know, there is not. So let me know if anybody out there is interested in building ATV floats. They can be pretty simple DIY things. So I guess as far as the report goes, the cold temps that I was saying we were going to get last week changed. That forecast changed the very next day, actually. And we were supposed to have teens at night and high 20s during the day. And now all this week we had, high 20s at night and 40s during the day, or close to 40. So not great for making ice. What little ice we do have in the area has held on, but it's not in great shape. So hopefully that ice can hold on. We're getting snow right now as I record this, and we'll see what that does to the ice. And it looks like next week is kind of more of the same weather until the weekend. Right now they're calling for some cooler temps there, so hopefully we've got some more ice on the way. But yeah, it's been a kind of a slow start after an early Thanksgiving tease there with the ice. The Mendota buoy is not operable right now, but from what I hear, temps around the chain are in the upper 30s, mid to upper 30s. Generally around the chain, as temps continue to fall, fish are staying hungry. Muskie anglers are doing well, and walleye anglers are still doing well from shore. We'll talk about some of that stuff later. Like I said, there is some ice out there, but it is sketchy at best in a lot of spots. So if you do make it out, please be careful and do your best to kind of research or follow people out, or just be safe out there. So one of those spots that has some ice right now is Cherokee Park up here. Last week there was kind of a big chunk of ice that was left over from Thanksgiving, kind of floating here, pushed up against shore. That ice has locked back up after last week's cold temps. But like I said, the ice that was sort of down here, this was open water, and then it kind of capped over. There's about maybe 2 inches there if you're lucky. This big chunk of white ice had, I had reports of 3 inches, but I'd be shocked if it was actually 3. It'd probably more like 2.5, or 2 from what I hear. and there is still some open water, little strips of it that kind of sneak in. So it's just a small path, maybe about as wide as a city street, that you can walk out onto a patch, and you'll see everybody kind of packed into one little area. That being said, they are getting some gills out there, but officially I'm not recommending people do that until things lock up and get a little safer. Um, Downstream here at the 113 bridge, no catfish action out of there that I've heard of, but I have still been hearing about some walleyes down there. The water is still open. There's some good current through there, so that doesn't really ice up very much over the season. Out here on Mendota, um, with the piers being pulled now, I haven't really heard much action from folks in boats, but the folks that are getting out are doing well on your mid-lake humps, Duns, and Second Point. I guess I haven't heard much out of Brearley, but also walleyes along shore. Governor's Island's been good. Um, but yeah, not a lot of reports without a lot of people getting out. Shore anglers are doing well, like I mentioned. The University Shoreline's been good. Tenney Park remains good for walleyes, mostly at night. Um, and I guess I've heard some off of the Warner Park breakwall. So yeah, some good walleye action out there to be had yet. Also heard about a little bit of walleye action here where the river dumps into Lake Monona from some shore anglers. Um, Otherwise, Lake Monona is pretty much the same deal. Walleyes are being caught shallow, mostly along the city shoreline, John Nolan Drive area, Olin Park, uh, down in those areas. Have been hearing about still some crappies coming off the wall over here, but a lot of the panfish seem to have moved down into Monona Bay, where they stay most of the winter. They're getting ready for ice, and good weeds down there for them to hang out in. And yeah, should be a good season of ice fishing down there. Haven't heard much out of Wingra. A few muskies still on the smaller side, but a lot of your bigger muskies are still coming out of Monona, of course. Um, Downstream here on Mud Lake, I guess I haven't heard anything specific out of there, but I imagine there's still good fishing to be had in the dredge hole here as fish kind of stack up in there, getting ready for winter. That's a winter hot spot. Haven't heard a ton out of Wabisa other than some decent muskie action. Some walleyes out from Babcock. The launch here at Babcock is still in, and they leave that in for quite a while. I don't know if they leave it in until it freezes, but it's still in as far as I've heard. Um, Otherwise, I guess I heard about some fish down near the rock pile down here, and some panfish down in the shallow South Bay here. I haven't heard much out of Kegonsa. I guess this is going to be kind of a pretty short report. Yeah, not a lot of people getting out, not a lot of ice out there. Um, I guess I have heard about, and I know that there's some ice down here at Viking County Park in this area they call the ditches, this backwater off the Yahara River. That ice is also sketchy, so please be careful if you're out there. But I don't know if folks have been getting fish or not. I just know I drove by there last weekend and saw some folks out. Other than that, I haven't heard much locally out on Lake Kashkonong. I've heard that some of the back bays here, have got some ice on. That ice is sketchy, but I did hear that they were getting a few fish out of there. Haven't heard much about walleyes out on the main lake, but there are probably a few folks getting out catching fish. I have heard about fish from the lake up through Black Hawk Island, Fort Atkinson, Redstone. Some folks getting some walleyes through there, mostly in deeper water as they kind of are getting staged up in their winter holding areas. Up in the the Prairie du Sac Dam, I've heard about some walleyes and sauger coming out of here. Some decent muskie action up there still between there and the Highway 12 bridge. Haven't heard much downstream. Um, Up in Lake Wisconsin, I haven't heard a ton as far as walleyes or any game fish go. I have heard that there's some ice over here in this area they call the Fingers near Harmony Grove that they've been getting a few fish, but I heard the ice by shore is pretty sketchy, and some folks were putting pallets down to get out on that ice. But yeah, hopefully with this cooler weather, we get some cooler weather and can lock up some of this some of this shallow ice to at least expand some of our possibilities. Because right now, there's not a lot going on. Um, haven't heard much out of the Wisconsin River from Portage up to the Dells. I have heard about some walleyes coming out of the Dells above the Wisconsin Dells, again in those deeper areas on breaks. Um, got the dams at Castle Rock and Pettenwell, always pretty consistent producer. You never know exactly what you're going to get, but walleyes and saugers in those areas. Um, haven't heard much about muskies specifically. I have heard some of these backwater areas on Castle Rock and Pettenwell have capped over, and they've been getting fish there. But again, be careful with the ice because it's these temperatures you never really know what's going on out there. So on the Mississippi River, um, I've heard about some fish, some walleyes coming out of the dam areas. And some of the backwaters I've heard out here have started to cap over, and folks are getting some panfish in there. Um, and I guess it'd be the same thing all the way up the Wisconsin River. Some of these backwaters, all along, the Wisconsin up to Prairie du Sac. A lot of good sloughs back there that are worth a look. I haven't heard specifics on a lot of those, but I have heard some people are getting some fish. But I can't stress it enough. Just please be careful out on this early ice. Over to Milwaukee, haven't heard much in the way of salmon anymore. I think they're pretty much moved out. The brown trout are likely moved out of a lot of the tributaries over here. Steelhead remain in some of the tribs. I know they're getting a few fish in the Milwaukee River still, down to the Root River and Port Washington. If you're into burbot fishing, the burbot like to spawn in this area, and that's an interesting fish. They're good fighters. I've never tried them myself, but I hear they're good eating. Poor man's lobster, they call that, if you prepare it that way, can be really great. So I think that's kind of a night bite. Maybe cut bait on the bottom is what I hear a lot about. So yeah, if you're into that, give it a shot. Otherwise, haven't heard a lot coming out of all the other tributaries going up the river. I'm sure the walleye bite here in Green Bay remains good, and muskies out in the bay itself. Haven't heard a lot out of Lake Winnebago, so I guess not a ton to report this week. And trout fishing, the season being closed here, is there's 29 days left until it opens up again in January. But if you really want to scratch that itch and you get a nice day, Iowa's not too far away, and they have a season open all year. Anyway, yeah, I guess that's it for the report. Stop on into the shop if you're looking for Christmas gifts for that angler in your life. But yeah, we'll fingers crossed we get some ice here, and stay tuned, and call the shop too if you want any ice reports. But yeah, stay tuned, and we'll talk next week. Thanks so much.